Hey everyone, Miss White here, and I want to discuss some of the ways that we can mark up the text. First thing you might be wondering is why do we need to mark up the text? Really, there are a bazillion reasons, but four of them, as we can see here, is that sometimes we need a bit of a boost in helping us to remember. In helping us to remember maybe for a test or for an upcoming book club or literature circle or for just remembering it to bring it to the floor for some reason. And so this is a great way. Maybe you want to remember something to share with a friend. All of these are great reasons to mark up. That alone is just a great reason to mark up the text. Another reason that is a fabulous reason to mark up the text is on questions when we need to respond and it says respond using evidence or respond with evidence or using evidence from the text. Whenever you see the word evidence, that means we really should be reading this text very closely and carefully, and we want to make sure that we know what information might be beneficial and how we are going to respond to it. Another thing that might help us with marking up the text is just to understand it better. Sometimes texts can be very complicated and confusing, and if we mark words we don't know and write our thoughts in the margins, we might be able to figure out what they're talking about as we go. And finally, the last one I want to talk about today is it helps you to be an active learner. And in order to be an active learner, you need to be thinking and working and focusing on the text and making sure that you're understanding what you're reading and paying attention to what you're reading. So we want to help ourselves to actively engage during the reading process. So there are a lot of ways we can mark it up, and it's important to remember that if it's my own book or it's just a copy of a paper or usually on test books, we can write right on the text. We can highlight, we can underline, we can box things, whatever. We can usually also do that if it's like on a Google Doc. Maybe we don't own the rights to do that, but we can always make a copy of it. There are a lot of ways that we can mark up our text doing that. However, if it's a book from the library or like a school book, a textbook, or all those kinds of things, then you can't write in it. But you could take notes, the same thinking notes, do the same process on a separate sheet of paper next to it. Or you could use Post-it notes and stick them on the pages. And you can put the same things on the Post-it notes that you would normally put on the actual text. A couple things that we can do while we're marking the text. We could draw a box. We can also highlight a word. And it can be the same thing, something we know or don't know or whatever. Another thing we can do is underline important ideas or facts. In addition to underlining, we can write in the margin. We can show our thinking voice. Remember, we have our reading and our thinking voice. And our thinking voice helps us to understand what it says. So some of our thinking that we might have could be a question, a concern, an agreement, a disagreement. Maybe even something that you've had happen that's very similar. There are so many things that could pop up in our thinking voice. Maybe it's a question that maybe you don't have, but maybe it's one somebody else would be wondering about for a discussion group. Or maybe it's something you think that'll be important to know on the test. These are all great things that you can write down in the margins. Another thing you can do when you're taking notes is just use quick shortcut writing. For example, you might put an exclamation point for something important, or an agreement or disagreement. Something that stands out. We might put a star for a fact you need to know, or something interesting. Might put a question mark for something I don't know. Maybe you're confused or don't understand. And we might even mark something that's funny, something that made us laugh or chuckle. You can always come up with your own shortcut codes as well. You don't have to just use the ones I give you, but you can come up with your own as long as you're consistent and know what they mean. Finally, you can draw arrows. Maybe underlining ideas. Actually, I'm just going to do it. For example, you could say underlining ideas is one way to do the same thing that we could do here. These could be the same. These could overlap. You might do some of those for both of those, and you can draw arrows to make connections within the same text, something that connects to itself in the text. Okay, let me show you. I'm going to go through this text and show you my thinking as I read it. This is called Laundry Around the World. Clothes get cleaned in many different ways. And I think there's a lot of ways that we've seen in history, but of course we know about washing machines and stuff, right? We know about those and how they work. I'm going to keep track of which kinds of ways we can wash things. So let's see what happens. Everyone wears clothes, but some people wear a few clothes. And some people wear a lot of clothes. Okay. First of all, I hope everybody wears clothes. I hope so. Some people wear a few clothes. Maybe it's hot. Maybe they're poor. Some people wear a lot of clothes. Maybe they're cold. Some clothes are for playing around and getting dirty, and some clothes are fancy and for more formal occasions, like a dance, or prom, or going to a wedding. Even though everyone wears some form of clothing, everyone gets their clothes clean in different ways, depending on their living conditions. Just because people live in the same country doesn't mean they all clean their clothes the same way. I'm wondering about the statement that says, depending on their living conditions. Like different living conditions. I guess if you're really poor or really rich or something along those lines. Okay. Just because people live in the same country doesn't mean they all clean their clothes in the same way. I think that's important, so I'm going to underline that. Oops. That seems like it could be really important for later. Some people have washing machines in their home. Some people take their clothes to the cleaners. Oh, I bet a cleaners, is that like a laundromat? Some people wash their clothes in a pan or tub of water, while others wash their clothes in a stream or a lake. Oh, remember how I said I was going to make a list? Let's see, what have we found? We have washing machines. We have Let's see, taking it to like a laundromat or a cleaner's. We have in a pan or a tub. And a stream or a lake. Wow, that's 4 different ways that we can do our laundry. Since water is needed to get clothes clean, they must get dry. Some people use a large dryer. Well, that makes sense. Since clothes get clean, they must get dry. Some people use a large dryer and others hang their clothes on the line and clothes dry naturally. So we can use electricity. We use electricity, or we can use natural air. There's no right or wrong way to clean clothes. Everyone has laundry, but everyone has a different system for getting them clean. That seems important. And I'm actually going to star that and star that so I don't forget. I didn't have very many words in this that I didn't understand. But that's okay. I did have a lot of things. I understood that there were some important parts, and I understood that there were some less important parts. It's important that we practice this so we can get really good at it. So, those are some of my tips and tricks for marking up the text. Hope it helped. Have a great day.